so first thing I want you to do is look at your hand. Look at your hand. Take your pencil, and I want you to follow the shape of your palm. Follow the shape of your palm, just so you can get an idea. When you are drawing things, it's better to break out what you're drawing into the simplest shapes. The simplest shapes. A lot of people will just draw this as a square, but it's not. There's some curves in there. I'm gonna go ahead and draw my shape right now. And I'll darken it so you guys can see what I see in just a minute. Okay, so this is my shape of my palm. Let me make it a little darker so you can see. I want you, and draw it lightly, you guys, because you're gonna have to erase some of these guidelines. I want you to go ahead and draw the shape that you have for a palm. I do want you to notice for the thumb, I did an angle here because my thumb is angled. It is not perfectly flat, angle. So please draw that shape that you saw. I'm gonna keep going, but I'll go backwards. I'm gonna keep going so people who aren't here can see. Then I'm gonna look at my fingers. Now notice my pinky kind of sticks out just a little bit. I'm gonna draw this shape here of my digits, okay? The overall, not the individual digits, but overall shape, okay? Okay, so that's my guideline for where my fingers should be. You'll notice that proportionally, my palm is about the same length as my middle finger. Okay, so they should be similar in distance. Okay, now I'm gonna add my thumb in. I'm gonna follow that curve and draw in just a shape of where my thumb would be. Yeah, mine's a little not sticking that far. Remember how I said to draw light? That's because artists make mistakes. You're gonna make one. It's okay. All right, there's kind of my thumb shape there. Do you see my overall hand shape? It's like I'm wearing mittens, right? That's what it should look like right now. I'd like everyone to get to this point, please. You can stop it.
Ready.
So now that you have your overall shape, look at your digits. Look at your fingers. You'll notice some nice crease lines that break your finger up into 3 sections. The part that meets the palm, then the middle, and the top. See which ones are longer. Are you like me where you have little snowman fingers where it's smaller head, mid-sections medium, the bottom's a little bit longer? Figure that out. We're now gonna draw those as ovals. We're gonna draw them as ovals. Simple shapes. Now my finger comes straight out almost. So I'm gonna draw my first oval, and since this one tends to be on my finger the longest, there we go, oval number 1. Medium snowman oval, medium. And there's my top. Ideally, you're following the guidelines you already made, but Captain Miller is already going off on her own thing. All right, now my middle finger is longer than my index and my ring. So this one needs to be, for me, the tallest. Your fingers might be different. Make sure you are following your own hand. Here we go. So I'm gonna make that bottom section a little bit longer than I did for the index to kind of make up for it proportionally. Here's my middle one, and here's my top one. There we go. Ring finger time. Ring finger, a little bit shorter. It's almost, for me, the same size as my index. There you go. And just simple shapes here. A little long there. All right, and now notice how I'm holding my hand. I have the most space. My pinky here tends to stick out, but follow your own shape, please. So my pinky, here we go. And my pinky is my shortest finger. I'm pretty sure for everyone that's the case, but if not, that's also okay. All right, so I have some shapes here. Now I'm gonna look at my thumb. My thumb doesn't necessarily have 3 sections like the rest of my fingers did. It kind of has 2. And it kind of doesn't, when I'm holding it like this, it's not going straight up like these ones. It's kind of curving back in towards here. And there's a nice connection point. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw here that kind of, and it pudges out just a little bit in this view for me. So I'm gonna kind of draw it, not so fat because I did skinny on the other ones, and we wanna keep nice and proportionate with the rest of our fingers. But we're gonna go ahead and draw it pudging a little bit, and then it kind of comes out like this, and here's the second shape here. So I have 2 ovals in this section here, oval and oval. Now that I have these basic shapes, see how it's starting to kind of look like a hand here? I'm gonna go ahead and just play and put that wrist. I notice a lot of students when they do their wrist, they like flare their wrist out like that. You do not have big fat wrist. Look at your wrist, and usually a lot of it kind of comes in, and just like that is perfectly fine, that connection. I'm gonna go ahead and start creating the connections between the fingers. Remember how I told you to draw light? That's because a lot of these lines are gonna be erased. These are guidelines for your hand. They're guides to help you draw your hand. It's always easier, like I said, when you're drawing something to break it up into the simplest shapes that you see. And what is shape again? What is shape?
Improvement.
Well, elements of art. It's okay. Elements of art. It's one of the basic elements of art. All right, so I'm going to create that connection here. And where those fingers, where those ovals meet, that's where my lines are. So I'm gonna erase some of that here, but I'm gonna keep some of that because that's a nice connection point. I know, if you want to come up and see, if you can't see, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. So see how I erased some of those lines and created a connection there, and then I can add some lines like that. Does that look a little bit more realistic now? Yeah. If you draw light, it'll be easier to erase, but I had to draw it kind of hard so you guys in the back could see. So I want you now to, after you draw those shapes, start fine-tuning that. And with your thumb, get rid of this really dark line that Captain Miller drew and create that connection point, what your connection point looks like. Again, mine kind of pudges a little. Whoever's cell phone just rang, let's go ahead and shut that off.
That was so funny.
All right. Start doing your connections. I'm gonna come around and help you guys get to that final point.